On the last night of training, someone slipped a letter under their door. No name, no rank, just a message, and 18 signatures. The men whose names were on that letter were already dead. They had died in Mogadishu 8 years before filming began. And somehow, they still had one request. Black Hawk Down cost $92 million and sent a cast of Scots, Australians, Danes, and Englishmen to Morocco to play American soldiers in a battle that happened in Somalia. Not one Somali was cast. The man who flew the helicopter in the most dangerous scene was the same man who had flown that helicopter for real. And the man they chose to film all of it had spent his career making quiet films about grief for a Polish art house director. Black Hawk Down, 2001. 16 facts, starting with what was on the radio when the mission began. Fact 1. Not a single Somali person was cast in the film. The battle happened in Somalia. The film was shot in Morocco. The Somali militia, the Somali civilians, the Somali market, all played by Moroccan extras. There were no Somali consultants on set. There was no Somali voice in the script. The most influential film ever made about Somalia was made entirely without Somalia. Fact 2. Ewan Bremner plays Nelson, who spends the film telling his partner Twombly not to fire so close to his head because he can barely hear. During production, Bremner partially lost his hearing due to sustained weapons fire on set. He recovered. The line stayed in the film. A Scottish actor, partially deafened by gunfire in Morocco, delivered a joke about partial deafness. Nobody changed a word. Fact 3. Ridley Scott hired Sławomir Idziak, the Polish cinematographer who had spent his career shooting quiet metaphysical films for Krzysztof Kieślowski. 3 Colors, Blue, The Double Life of Veronique, films about grief and interiority, lit with colored filters and soft haze. Scott gave him Black Hawk Down and asked him to shoot it with up to 15 cameras simultaneously, all handheld, in the middle of sustained live weapons fire. Idziak had never shot a war film. The disorientation you feel watching it, the feeling that no one knows where they are, that the geography is dissolving, was built by a man whose previous specialty was the inner life of a French widow. Fact 4. Ridley Scott wanted Russell Crowe as Hoot, the Central Delta Force operator, the coolest character in the film, the moral center, the last line. Crowe had to turn it down. He was shooting A Beautiful Mind. But Crowe knew an Australian actor who had just played a serial killer and was completely unknown in Hollywood. He recommended Eric Bana personally. Ridley Scott took him. Bana had never had a Hollywood role. The character who delivers the only question that matters, what do you do when you go home, exists because his first choice actor was unavailable, and because that actor chose his own replacement. Fact 5. There is a scene where a soldier falls out of a truck in the convoy. It was an accident, an outtake. Ridley Scott reviewed the footage, decided it was funny, and kept it. It is one of the few unscripted moments in the film. The Battle of Mogadishu cost 18 American lives. One of the laughs in the film about it came from a man accidentally falling over. Fact 6. Nicolás Coster-Waldau was a celebrated actor in Denmark before Black Hawk Down. In America, nobody had heard of him. He was cast as Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, a Delta Force sniper who volunteered on foot to reach the second crash site. Gordon made it. He was killed defending the survivor. He was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. The actor who would later play the most famous knight in television history made his American debut playing a man who chose to die rather than leave someone behind. Fact 7. Tom Hardy as Twombly and Ewan Bremner as Nelson were left behind. The convoy moved out. Their chalk had been ordered to join it. The order didn't reach them. 2 men, alone, unarmed, on foot in Mogadishu, had to make their way to the crash site by themselves. This was not scripted drama. It was what actually happened. The film's 2 most comedic characters spent part of the battle completely abandoned, walking through a war. A deaf Scotsman, an unknown Australian, 2 forgotten men, a pilot who flew his own mission twice. That was what happened behind the camera. What happened in front of it was what the world saw. Fact 8. The little bird that lands at the first crash site in the film, under fire, crew dragged out, one take, is not flown by a stunt pilot or an actor. It is flown by Chief Warrant Officer Keith Jones. On October 3, 1993, Jones landed at that crash site in Mogadishu, ran to the burning Black Hawk, pulled 2 wounded survivors out, and flew them to the hospital. 8 years later, he came back. Same man, same mission, same movement. The scene required one take. Fact 9. The cast playing American soldiers included Ewan McGregor, Scottish; Eric Bana, Australian; Ewan Bremner, Scottish; Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, Danish; Tom Hardy, English; Jason Isaacs, English; Iowan Grufford, Welsh; Orlando Bloom, English. The film about American Rangers fighting in Somalia featured almost no Americans in the leading roles. The Pentagon cooperated fully. Nobody appeared to notice. Fact 10. Ridley Scott's first choice for location was Jordan. Amman was rejected. Too modern, too built up, not enough visual chaos. He chose Morocco, specifically Rabat and Saleh. The reason was simple. He had been there the year before, shooting Gladiator. Production designer Arthur Max had already built ancient Rome in the Moroccan desert. He now rebuilt a Somali capital in the same country, using the same infrastructure. The team that had dressed the Colosseum dressed the streets of Mogadishu. The extras who populated those streets were Moroccan. The battle that killed 18 Americans and over 1,000 Somalis was reconstructed in a location chosen because a fictional gladiator had fought there the year before. Fact 11. Bootleg copies of Black Hawk Down arrived in Mogadishu within days of the US release. Hundreds of Somalis watched it in an outdoor screening. When the helicopters were shot down on screen, the audience cheered. One man told a reporter, "As you can see, Somalis are brave fighters." The film that the Pentagon had shaped to show American soldiers as heroes was in Mogadishu, a victory film for the other side. Both audiences were watching the same footage. They were not watching the same film. Fact 12. The film was originally scheduled for March 2002, then came September 11th. The release was moved forward. December 2001 for Oscar qualification, January 2002 for wide release. At the Washington premiere, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and the Joint Chiefs sat in the front row. Cheney used the film in public speeches afterwards. Mogadishu as proof that America without military force was vulnerable. The film had originally included 2 end cards linking it directly to 9/11s. They were cut. Test audiences hadn't responded the way anyone expected. A film about a defeat, pulled forward out of one war and into the next, had been designed as a recruitment tool. Even that was too much. Fact 13. The streets of the Moroccan set were regularly overrun by stray dogs. They wandered into shots. They appeared in the background of combat scenes, in doorways, at the edges of firefights. Ridley Scott decided not to cut them. He liked what they added. By the end of production, crew members had formed attachments. 8 dogs were adopted and brought back to the United States. A war film about a battle that killed 18 soldiers and hundreds of Somali civilians ended with 8 Moroccan street dogs being taken home. That was the only uncomplicated outcome of the entire production. Fact 14. Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart volunteered 3 times before command authorized them to proceed on foot to the second crash site. They knew what they were walking into. They reached it. They found pilot Mike Durant alive. Both Gordon and Shugart were killed holding the perimeter. Both received the Medal of Honor, being the first awarded since Vietnam. In the film, they appear briefly. They arrive. They die. Their names are in the end credits. That was the full extent of what the film gave them. Fact 15. Black Hawk Down is shown to U.S. Navy SEAL recruits before Hell Week begins. According to Chris Kyle, the film is used as preparation material, not for tactics, but for psychological endurance. A film the Pentagon edited for public consumption, that the Somalis in Mogadishu watched as a victory film, is now used to motivate the men who will go into the next conflict. It has been in that rotation for over 20 years. Fact 16. On the last night at Fort Benning, a letter appeared under the door of the actors playing Rangers. It thanked them for their work. It asked them to tell the story true. It was signed by the dead. The film that was released was the one the Pentagon approved. The scenes that explained why 18 men died were cut. The bootleg copy in Mogadishu was cheered. The men who survived the real battle watched a film that showed what happened and removed the part that mattered most. 18 signatures, 1 request. The film did what it could.